grew up in the mass urban um, dystopia slash utopia, and in between Uzbekistan and Tajikistan. And I'm majority British and Irish. For me, basically being what many people would call like a Chaldean. And also, this I'm labeled by my race test as a Roma Persian. What is that? Well, it's basically the upper class Tajik, where you basically tend to have a lot of Anglo-Saxon influence. That's what an upper class West Asian like me happens to be. Basically, a lot more like a European, in spite of having like sharper eyebrows and looking deceptively to many people a Middle Eastern man. Except for the fact that I have an English name. Anthony Paul Robinson is actually my name. And I don't like going by Tony or Antonio. And these are two different names that are different from Anthony, which usually translates as Ailey. That's why I call myself Ailey Robinson on YouTube. And very early on, I was in the military. And very early on, did a lot of operations against the West. And that's why when people talk about rebirth of the West, I usually get pissed off very heavily, because I'm not really given the chance to actually be represented as a Westerner, in spite of being majority British and Irish. I usually have to be dressed in more of like the Orientalist exotica stuff. And if it weren't for any of the excessive stoic training that I endured, I would pretty much resent it. But I don't. But it just means I have to work through my emotions and basically separate myself from my emotions. Because I usually tend to get very rowdy, especially during the winter. And especially when I drink lots of caffeine to basically circulate a lot of the energies. And bring on also gel. Stoic training is a lot more difficult than what someone like Ryan Holiday would pretty much promote for the masses. The Stoic training that I basically had endured included emotional stoicism from a very well-known countercultural founder, Anatol Ali. And he's basically a guy that happens to be amongst shit, because he never had it good whatsoever. Like Aaron Lewis is basically a classic alpha male shitster who never had it good, and basically saw that within me, who basically had it worse, which was underage military service. Well, that's why sometimes I tend to get very reactive, because I'm kind of working through the lack of emotion, the lack of emotional development. And instead of having to be a very, very stricter stoic on myself in order to kind of navigate through kind of future, which would be groups with very preppy kids. They were merely just as individuals that were basically fed with a spoon silver platter. Never complain about it. Whereas I never really could complain about the Navy service whatsoever at an early age. And it makes me very heavily humbled by the fact that there are those that are more social than me, and I happen to be an upper echelon Iranian man in real life. Fun.